sick, diving. Only bear the crossing path. Easy bastard. Visualizing season 6 of Kitchen Sick.
Okay,
Trust happy.
welcome to a very unusual lightning round. As those the viewers who have watched our channel know, lightning rounds, we have multiple topics a piece. Typically it's topics. This is going to be a little bit different, little bit of a nod to Reading Rainbow and LeVar Burton. But we have 5 minutes to talk about something, and we each alternate bringing up a particular topic. So Casey, you are first with your book review, I guess.
Yeah. Take a drink with kitchen sink, reading rainbow microscopy.
Dude, oh my God. I wish we actually with AI, we could make that we could animate that. Oh, man.
Well, yeah. So, going with the theme of books from our childhood and I kind of grabbed for stuff that shaped me into who I am. And so I figured I'd start with Scooby Doo and the Mystery Monster.
Ooh.
Now, this has been pretty ratty shape. The cover just comes right off. And it's clearly missing a few pages because it just starts with "The gang heard the roar too." But I was so into Scooby Doo that in general I got so interested in anything detective like.
Yes. And same here.
And that just I feel like was such a foundation for curiosity, valuing truth and critical thinking and all this stuff. Whereas I don't know, somebody maybe who was raised on Ren and Stimpy might not necessarily have those same let's say virtues cultivated. I mean, they could from elsewhere, but I mean, as far as cartoons go, I thought Scooby Doo was super good at that, because the bad guy was never an actual ghost.
Yes,
it grounded you in reality.
Mm-hmm. Yep, exactly. No, and that's actually I was about to bring that up about Scooby Doo, because it was kind of like a detective show, maybe like a whodunit kind of thing. But yeah, they'd always pull the mask off and oh, it's so and so. It's never. Well, now they did make a more spooky woo Scooby Doo in later years, where it's oh yeah, it was actually a ghost. Which is fun.
Yeah.
But that was more aimed at teens and adults and stuff like that. It wasn't necessarily a kid show, and that's perfect because, it's really important to instill that kind of what I don't know what word I'm thinking of, but in children when they're young, that is grounded in reality sort of thing.
Yeah, grounded in reality, and it shows you that it's still fun to imagine that could be a thing, and to allow yourself to be a little bit scared in the moment, but not let it control you. Always know in the back of your head, this can't be real. This isn't really a nightmare I'm living.
Yeah, or maybe there's more to the story that you're not necessarily aware of until you do a little digging.
Yeah. I was so into Scooby Doo that one time I had a dream where I was being chased by a monster or whatever, and my alarm went off and the dream said to be continued, and I woke up and it's just like an episode. But then the crazy thing was when I went to sleep the next night, it picked up right where it left.
Oh my God, that's amazing.
And now back to the show.
Yeah, Scooby Doo. And it was kind of elements of slapstick and some humor and stuff, but it was also, it's like, yeah, there were some genuinely spooky things in there.
Oh yeah.
And that's good, but it's like, hey, it ended with everything kind of being resolved and like, oh yeah, oh, it's just that guy. Which, like, that's important, like a very important lesson for kids to kind of uh gain a little experience with it, to like, yeah. Scooby Doo, man. Oh,
right. And of course you learn like other words for things, like it wasn't just ghost, it was phantom or specter, and like a lot of stuff that like most people don't really even use in common language, even adulthood. But I mean, like I have a song called Spectre, like so some of that stuff like hails back to Scooby Doo.
Yeah.
As goofy as that sounds.
And actually, Scooby Doo too also was like, it was like a ragtag bunch of people. It was kind of like Buckaroo Banzai or the Magnificent Seven or something like that. Like all kinds of different people, and they all worked together for a common goal, despite all their differences. Which was that's an important lesson, like really important.
Yeah. Preppies, nerds, stoners, a dog.
Yeah. Oh man, that's time. Goddamn. Yeah. Good. Awesome. Okay, well, on to me. All right. Well, let's see. So where to start? Okay. We'll start with one of my most beloved stories from when I was a child, Anansi the Spider. So this is a book, and it was also a film too, like literal film. Beautifully illustrated. It tells a story about like a spider that hails from from Ghana in Africa, and like my dad would like spin up the projector, and we'd watch it all the time, and I love this story. So I don't have you heard of Anansi?
I haven't heard of that, but I totally dig the art. Like that's super cool. Like the cultural experience for a kid, like, and
geometry and stuff, and like there's a little bit of like spiritual stuff. The god is called Nyame, and it's incredible. And this too is another, because it's like Anansi is the father, and he has a bunch of kids who are spiders, and each spider has a particular skill, and they have to work together to get Anansi out of the fish that swallowed him. And stuff. It's such an incredible story. There's multiple, like, there are so many particular like derivative stories or stories based on this out there. But
I just read one last night, because in order to learn German, you should start with kids' books. And so I was reading one called Superworm, and all of his friends that he helped had to help him. So
that seems to be a common theme, actually, for kids' books. And and that's the thing too. In this story, it's like all the spider kids, like they're all different and unique, and like maybe a little weird. And like, and you'd be like, well, what's the point of cushion? Very soft. What's the point of cushion? Well, it's because when his father's falling, he could bounce off of him and be protected against fall damage, essentially. And it like, oh my god, I love this story.
And spiders can die from a fall.
Yes. Yeah.
Like, very easily, because they have that exoskeleton that breaks. And fucked.
Yeah, exactly. It's just like, if you have the chance, look up the video, the film from the 60s. It's up there on YouTube. You can like watch it. Yeah. Oh my God. And there's so many other stories though. It's like, this is the interesting thing. And this is what I love about Anansi is like, I had no, me being like a Scandinavian, sourced human. I didn't have a lot of the connection with Africa, but like watching that, oh yeah, I totally feel it. Like I get it. Like, yeah, we're separated by hundreds of years and thousands of miles, and yet I completely understand it, and this story resonates with me. I like even to this day. It's like anytime I feel down, I watch that old 60s animated Anansi the Spider video. It's like it puts me in a very happy place. Yeah, I don't know.
That's awesome. I can't say I've heard of that one, but that's the great thing about these children's books is that there's so many of them. In fact, I've actually my wife and I have talked about writing some together because it's kind of been like a dream of ours independently. And
same here, man. I have a couple of kids' books I want to write.
Yeah. I've even been thinking about doing like one of these I'm going to talk about. I thought maybe do a reading of for the show here, and then of course we got to do all the COPPA stuff. Like, is this for kids?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh man.
And I kind of want to write a kid's book about that, like overprotecting.
Yeah.
Like helicopter parenting and stuff.
Oh like God, that. No, I completely agree.
Well, build in a little seed of rebellion.
Exactly, and the thing is, these kinds of stories, it's like it doesn't have to necessarily be safe. This is the place where you can talk about difficult subjects that maybe in a way that is comfortable and digestible by kids. That like, because it's really important to know that when you move into adulthood, and that's something like Anansi the Spider and stuff. It's like it's telling you life lessons to prepare you for when you do become an adult, and it'll stick with you. And it absolutely has stuck with me. Like amazing, something from so far away. It has made a huge impact on me. Oh, okay. Well, that's time. Okay, on to you.
All right. Well, this one, I'm kind of wishing I didn't draw all over it because it's actually worth a shit ton of money now. I found, but it's it's kind of from the Cat in the Hat series or whatever of Dr. Seuss, but not by Dr. Seuss, just in that publishing realm. But Robert the Rose Horse, and do you know that one?
I do not. Tell me.
Okay,
about
so it's about this horse that like has a birthday party, and all of his friends come to the birthday party, and they put these roses on his cake, but he's like allergic, so he sneezes all over it and stuff, and goes to the doctor, and he's like, "Yep, you're allergic to roses," and he's like, "Well, I need to like get away from the city because there's roses in the city and stuff." So he like goes out on his own and tries to find like a new profession, and tries all these different professions out, so on and so forth, until he can find something where like he fits, and where ultimately where his allergy, his weakness, becomes a strength in the end, because he becomes a police officer and stops a robbery because there was roses nearby, and he sneezed on the burglars and knocked them over.
That's awesome.
But like I feel like that created in me that sense of being kind of a jack of all trades. Try a little of everything.
Yeah. Well, and not only that, but like, yeah, you might have some kind of presumed weakness, but maybe it isn't that. Maybe it's like a superpower in a way. And that's such an important lesson for kids to have. It's like, you know what, you might have a disability or whatever, but it doesn't matter. You can still accomplish amazing things and try it all. Like, go and I like, I haven't read that book, but I've been one of those people who, like yourself, have worked in many, many different fields in my life. I encourage everybody to do that. I think that it's like, you shouldn't stick to one thing. How boring would that be? Like,
super boring.
Yeah, go try something different that you maybe you don't want to do, or that you didn't think about. I don't know, just get a job doing whatever. Like, everybody should work in like fast food, retail, delivery kind of stuff, be a driver or something, work in an office for a while. I don't know, corporate stuff once in a while. I hate ties, but you know what? It's important to try a variety of things in life.
I think my mom had like one job, well, like one serious job her whole life, like 50 years plus.
Wow.
At the same place doing the same shit.
Oh my God.
I could just not fathom that at all.
Yeah. And my current job, I've been there since 2012. And I mean, I guess at least this job is pretty all over the place. Like, it's never really boring. There's always something new happening. So that's good. That's important, I think.
At least there's that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've never worked a job longer than, I don't know, 6 years maybe.
Yeah. Well, our business was about 6 years.
Yeah.
But
I think that was my longest.
That was up until this job, that was the longest job that I've had too. And it's important to go out there and try different things. And that story shows that it like encourages that idea of like, hey, go there. There's some things you should try different things, because maybe there's something out there that you're missing out on. And you might like it, you might not like it. Who knows? But you never know unless you try. And don't, I guess, obviously I haven't read the story, but my takeaway from that is like, don't put yourself down as if you can't do something. You can. Maybe not everything, but that's okay, because you can't do everything. But
even if your weakness itself can't be a strength in and of itself, your compensation for having that weakness builds strength in other areas. So like that, I think that's something that can be showcased by a story like that as well.
Absolutely.
As to show like, hey, maybe you can't do that the straight and direct way, but there's a way around it.
Yeah, exactly. Oh man. Well, that's time on that one. God, that's good. Okay, well, I guess it's my turn then.
This is gonna be a very moving episode.
Yes, it will be. For sure. Oh my God. Okay, so it's on to me. My next book is a very old one that my mom used to read me when I was a little kid, and I now have a hard copy of it that I got from the library. Libraries, I encourage everybody to go to the library and go to the books for sale section, because you can get books for like 10 cents or 25 cents or something. Like CDs for 50 cents, all kinds of things. And it helps the library, and that's really important. And then also you get a book. So this book is had a huge impact on me. It's called My Box and String.
My box.
Yeah. Well, not in that sense. It's a literal box. So this is about a kid who, let's see, I don't know if I can like do this, but he basically is bored one day and decides to take a box and put some string in front of it, and he creates like a little fort for himself, and he's hanging out there, and the fort is really cool, and everybody comes and visits him and is like, hey, can I hang out here? And there's a lot of it's almost like there's a bunch of homeless people coming up saying like, oh, can you have a nice house there, can I live there too? And he initially is apprehensive and doesn't want to share his box and string with others, the other people and animals that come up. But eventually, it's actually a girl that comes and wants to stay there, and he realizes like, well, you know what, I made this, I'm going to make more, I'm going to make a whole bunch of boxes and strings for everybody. And so he does that, and it's like, to me, this is a story about sharing, and how, like, if you have a skill to better humanity, use it to better humanity, not yourself. I mean, yeah, take care of yourself first, but then once you're taken care of, go out and use that skill.
Well, it sounds like he became an entrepreneur and
started
a chain of hostels called My Box and String.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, this story to me also is really important when it comes to my lifestyle, like polyamory, non-monogamy. Like, it's important to share. Like, sharing is good, and that just because somebody else wants to like hang out in your house for a little while doesn't mean they're like, you shouldn't necessarily, you should welcome people in and good people in particular.
There's an old German saying that applies here. Teilen schmeckt besser.
But yeah, what does that mean?
Sharing tastes better.
Yeah.
So like when you have food and somebody's like, oh, can I try some of that? You say, Teilen schmeckt besser.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. It's like the mi casa su casa or whatever, the Spanish. My house is your house.
My house is whore house?
Yeah, your house.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't say whorehouse. I said Jorge's house.
Well,
Get your mind out of the gutter.
But this story like exemplifies who I've become as a person, in that like I share everything. I have a whole workshop in my garage that and things that I collect to help other people solve their problems. Like, I love solving problems, and it brings me so much joy. And there's a lot of people out there who don't have things. I mean, I can't count the number of dollars and the amount of time that I've spent helping somebody for free solve their problem. Like, how many cars I've given to people. You're like, oh, here you go, here's a free car. Or
okay,
it's like,
Oprah.
yeah. Well, I don't know if like an old Subaru Forester is that exciting, but you know what? It's like $2 means a snack to me, but it means a big deal to you. Like, if you have the means, once you've taken care of yourself, go out there and help other people, make a difference, share like knowledge and resources and time and whatnot, your skills. And to me, it's also like maybe go back to my more religious Christian days, and it's like, teach a man to fish, right? Like, that's an important thing. If you know how to do something, how to solve problems, share that information with other people so they can solve their own problems. You don't necessarily need to hold their hand. In fact, that's actually detrimental. Like, teach other people how to build their own box and string, and maybe that'll become a revolution at some point. God damn,
so many different ways you can do that.
Yeah. Oh man. Okay, well, Your turn now.
All right. Well, this is the one that I really hold a cherished place in my memory for, and I don't know that it did that much to mold me. Well, actually, I think my imagination probably came out of this book. It's the book of bedtime stories.
Oh, dude.
Like it's pretty big. Originally from England, but for every single day of every month and every year, there's a really small, like 1 or 2 paragraph story. And it ranges from all kinds of stuff. There's one called The Proud Cat, The Tale of a Giraffe, Amanda and her brother, Fearless Bertha and Nick the Devil. And sometimes they would span a couple days. So it like there'd be cliffhangers and stuff. But probably my favorite part was on the 13th of every month, there was one that was a little bit like mysterious and spooky about this. Well, I'll just flip to the 13th and read one here. Yes, the tale of a cupboard. You can see here. It's just like covered in cobwebs and stuff. And it starts with one line and then carries that line through and adds another line each time. So in January, it was in a mysterious room in a mysterious house. There once stood a mysterious cupboard. And then that was it. And then it repeats that and then says it was positively the only thing in the room. And then it just says, if you want to know more, you have to wait until next month on the 13th. And then I would wait all year, even though I knew what happened. Like this is something that's always been the case with me. Like I have like kind of a short memory when it comes to stories. So I have like rewatch value for movies and stuff. So I can be like, yeah, I saw that movie, but I don't remember what happened. So I can watch it again.
Same here.
Yeah. I would kind of have the gist of what happened, but I was always excited for December so I could find out like exactly once again, what was it that was in that cupboard?
Oh man.
And so there's just like such a wide variety of stories and ideas and imaginative things. And of course there's like a castle on the front. And like, I know what kid doesn't like castles, but
exactly.
I was always super into castles. Would draw them and go to the library and get books on castles.
Yep, same here.
Like imagine just a year ago, I think was the first time, a year ago roughly, was about the first time I actually got to go inside of a castle in my life. Here in Germany and Italy. I've been to a couple now. But that was just like being a kid again, you know?
Like,
castle.
Exactly.
And my wife is like, yeah, you know, like we go on school trips as kids, so it's kind of like not a thing for us, but you know, we grew up around them and you didn't, so I get it, you know.
Well, and there could be things over here across the pond that don't exist over there. That like kids over in like Germany or England or something dream about, and we think are mundane. Well, it's like
oppressive capitalism.
Well, I was thinking more like Mount Rainier.
Oh yeah,
there are people who come from all over the world to look at that mountain, and it's like, yeah, I've been there, I've hiked, I've done the Wonderland Trail thing. It's really cool, but like, you've seen. I mean, you've seen them all.
We've got the Swiss Alps right next door and all that stuff, but the Mount Rainier is like, even though it's in a mountain range, it sticks out like a sore thumb.
Yeah,
like, it's fucking huge.
It is. Yep.
You know?
And it's beautiful too.
Yeah.
Like, there's something, and this is.
I never get tired of seeing it. To this day.
No, I never do too. I mean, I've been there so many times, but still, it's like it's magnificent when you see it up close, and when you're hiking around it.
It's better to see it from afar, in my opinion. Like, you just take it in, and like and it's all its grandeur and its massive size. When you're there on the mountain, you're just looking around. It's like, oh, the earth is flat. Standing on this mountain, but the earth is flat.
Yeah. Well, it's like, in Japan, you have Fiji or Fuji, Mount Fuji. Sorry, that's a whole different thing. Yeah.
You shall.
You shall. Yeah. But yeah, the mystique of places like castles and things, like all this history, and okay, maybe in reality it's pretty mundane, but still it warms the soul. Like there's something. Oh shit. Okay, well that's time.
Yeah. Well, I did want to say, like, the wonderful thing about bedtime stories in general is that they fire up the imagination while the kid is sleeping.
Yeah. Yep.
That's really important.
I actually just last night asked my rabbit AI companion to tell me a bedtime story, and it was awesome. Everybody should get one, by the way. Yes, I know it. Huh?
A bedtime story?
Yeah, bedtime. No. A rabbit R1.
Oh.
Yes, I know it could just be an app, but there's something nice. Well, I'll do a review at some point in time. So I have 2 more, right? And you have 2 more, I think.
Well, I have 1 more, and then we have the one that we both know.
Okay. Oh, well, shit. I have some more.
Well, yeah, I do too. We can do honorable mention.
Yeah. Why not? Hey, this is different. So we'll carry on. I've got a couple things. So, all right, go ahead.
Oh no, you're up.
Oh, am I? Okay. All right. Well,
sorry, bud. Looks like you do have to tell me twice.
My imagination is being stirred right now. So, okay. Well, if I am to talk about any kind of kids book as a recommendation, I would not recommend just one book, but an entire book series. And that series would be, give me a second, Choose Your Own Adventure.
It's all washed out.
Oh, no. Okay.
Right.
We'll back it up here.
Yeah, dude. Those were awesome.
Choose Your Own Adventure. I'm here, I'll just grab one of them. How about that?
You must have a light coming like in front of you.
The Cave of Time. Choose Your Own Adventure books. These are absolutely fantastic. So essentially it's like an RPG sort of thing. Like, it's not a linear story. You get to a fork in the road, and it's like, oh, would you, if you decide to go back home, turn to page 4. If you decide to wait, turn to page 5. So you could go from, like, sometimes you'd flip way ahead and flip way back, and then maybe it would end in success or failure. But it was like, oh God, these stories.
I loved those so much. I actually one time experimented with doing a minute microscopy Choose Your Adventure, which nobody watched, but I thought it was super fun. It would like the end screen would link you to a different variety of options, and you could choose one and go. But yeah, it was worth a try.
But there's a whole series. I have, I don't know, probably like 20-ish of them, maybe 30. The OG ones too. They did try to update them, but then they were instantly outdated because they were like, oh, we're gonna add like modern stuff into it. But still, the series, as far as I know, the series is still going.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and there are offshoots too. Like that was Choose Your Own Adventure was so successful that multiple publishers created their own things. There's like the Which Way series, which is much more teen oriented, adult. I think there was like a history based one that was like kind of heavy, actually. I have a few of those. But there were a whole bunch, and there were some that were more like educational, where you had to solve puzzles and things. It they're so
you know
great.
what? Like, you know how like cable and streaming have been, like one took over the other, cable took over regular TV and streaming took over cable and so on and so forth. If like local TV wanted to make a comeback, they should get like a nationally syndicated show that is a choose your own adventure style thing, where each like region has an entirely different like arc to the same beginning of a story. And now with this information age where like people can share things, people would be jumping on social media being like, oh, you know what happened in this region? And like,
Yeah. Oh yeah, that'd be awesome. Oh my God.
I mean,
like
that would be brilliant to compete with streaming,
mhm.
you can't really pull that off on streaming.
No. And this series fired my imagination. I love it.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, as a young kid, I acquired some of the alternate ones that were more adult. And oh my God, there's one that scared me. Like there's like, yeah, it legit scared me. Oh wow. It's so good.
Did you ever cheat and be like, oh shit, I died?
And well, every once in a while, stick your finger in there to hold the pages and like, well, just in case, I'll come back to that. I did, but it's like, even then, it's still a wonderful story and a branching thing like that like it's non-linear. Like the book is never quite the same every time you read it, which is awesome. You don't just go from front cover to back cover. You're jumping all over the place, and maybe there's pages you never encounter. It's fantastic. That like we need more of that, I think. And because like Choose Your Own Adventure encouraged me to read a lot. And of course, I obviously yummed up all those books. I mean, a lot of these books are ones that I had from when I was a kid. Just absolutely.
When you said series of books, I could have swore you were going to pull out the Chronicles of Narnia.
Oh God, that was
one. That was a big one in my childhood. My dad would read all of those to me before I could even read. So I was super young, and that's actually kind of an advanced story for someone that young.
Oh yeah, Narnia, like that. Oh my God,
that's an honorable mention. Like I wanted to keep those from my parents' house, but they were too far gone. So
I have a box set of all the books. And what's interesting about the Chronicles of Narnia is like, it's kind of Christian, but it kind of isn't. It's
right. Like, it's allegorically Christian, but it's not at all in your face.
No. It like very subtle in a lot of ways. I mean,
like Son of Adam, Daughters of Eve, and stuff like that was about as in your face as it got. Like, other than that, you wouldn't know. Just like Wizard of Oz is political. How many people know that?
Yeah, exactly.
Because it's really well disguised.
Well, we can also talk about Tolkien as well. The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings trilogy and stuff. That was actually like kind of allegorically religious, but clearly it was its own thing. Like it existed in its own world. So we have one more book, right?
I have one, you have one, and then we have the both.
All right. So on to you then.
All right. So I saved the biggest for last. And yes, this was a book I received and read in my childhood, like 1986 or so, the complete works of Sherlock Holmes.
Yes.
Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, like this, I recommend every kid read Sherlock Holmes. Not only was this, along with Scooby Doo, formative in my like detective, like my enamory with the detective world and the sciences behind it, but like as an adopted kid, and I always knew I was adopted. Reading this like gave me hope that I would be able to find my biological family someday. And so like when I graduated college with my bachelor's in biology, my dad, my adoptive dad, told me a story. You know, when you were a kid and you were reading all this Sherlock Holmes and stuff, he said, when I grow up, I want to be a blood scientist and a detective so I can find my parents, you know? And then he was like, and at that time I had already connected with my biological family. And he was like, so you did both of those things. You became a detective and found your family, and now you're a blood scientist.
That's awesome. Yeah, Sherlock Holmes series is fantastic.
Right.
Well, even we can connect it with one of our mutually favorite TV shows, Star Trek TNG. Data was fascinated with Sherlock Holmes, the Holmesian world and stuff, and for good reason.
Oh yeah. Well, not only like the detective aspect, but the astounding thing that this book did for me, and I read it cover to cover more than once, is that reading it cover to cover, that many pages, that many detective stories, so well crafted, so detailed and meticulous in the thought process, it built such a new avenue of thinking for me that by the time I would finish reading this, I could feel how analytical and how tuned into detail in the world around me I was just from reading stories.
Yeah.
Like, and that's still amazes me to this day. Like, these are fictional stories, but it made me a critical thinker. Like, this book alone is probably responsible for me being who I am now, you know?
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. And like I didn't have that book, but I did read a lot of Sherlock Holmes stuff when I was a kid. And yeah, same thing. Taught reasoning and logic and problem solving, and it was also just fun. It's a fun to read about like how a crime is solved essentially. And like in a technical sense too. That is, I think, what makes Sherlock Holmes like a very unique story, a series of stories.
Well, it wasn't. It was a detective, right? But he didn't just rely on deductive reasoning. He wove it in with inductive reasoning as well.
I was going to bring that up. Yeah.
Like, he's like, I noticed the mud on your shoe. And it's like, just by having mud on your shoe, that could mean a million things. But he's like, you know, it probably means that you were at this place at this time. And, you know, like he would use something like that to infer what may have, you know, logically deduce from that what may have happened.
Yeah, combining a bunch of clues together, like having that bird's eye view, I guess, of all of the facts, all the information, and being able to compute that.
Yeah, and that showed me as a kid, like when you're thinking about something, you have to look at it from more than one angle.
Yep.
Otherwise, you can't see the whole picture.
And
This might even be,
you might be led down a false path too.
Right. Well, this might even be a something that was from Sherlock Holmes, but there's a oh no, maybe it was Richard Dawkins. There's this thing where there's like two windows, and you see two guys walking by the window, and then all of a sudden you just see one guy walking by the window, and you might infer that that one guy killed the other one.
Oh, yeah. You might infer the one guy killed the other one.
Yeah,
that was time.
But you don't necessarily have the ability to deduce that.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to look at it from another angle in order to be sure.
Absolutely, yeah. Oh man, that's geez. How do I follow that one up?
Yeah, I mean that's why a book that weight was worth bringing to Germany.
Yeah. Oh no, I completely understand that. Oh man. Okay, so I guess it's my turn. And then I will bring up a book that is not so heavy, but I guess equally heavy in a sense. So Eric the Viking. This is a story by Terry Jones of Monty Python fame. Oh, actually, it's not a story, but it's like a series of stories about Eric the Viking. Beautifully illustrated. And, you know, I had this, actually, I'm named after him. So, but these are fictitious stories about Eric the Viking. God, I don't know. This is an old. It's kind of dog-eared a little bit. Like I have read this and loved this forever.
Wait a minute. What was it on the spine where it's peeling back? Did that say Necronomicon?
No, it's basically the same thing. The saga of Eric the Viking.
Could have swore it said Necronomicon.
No.
I might have explained some things.
Yeah, but like this tells like old Norse tales, and just like Anansi the Spider, this is like a cultural connection to things. And you know, I hate the cold, which is weird because you know I should love the cold because you know Scandinavian heritage and stuff. But these stories are fantastic.
To be fair to the Scandinavians, most of them crowd around the south along the coast where it's at least warmer.
Yep. But this is true. Yeah. This is true. Yeah. Well, and they were explorers and wanderers who just like, hey, let's get
warmer
out.
Places.
Yeah, let's get out of here. This is too cold. We'll build a ship and sail somewhere else and check things out. It's such a fantastic collection of stories, and it's like they're all self-contained, but it's kind of like Babylon 5, I guess, where there's sort of a like it just runs from one thing to another, so you could individually read a story and be satisfied, but also you could read it from cover to cover and it tells like a long tale of Eric the Viking's journey, of exploration and discovery and all the hazards that he and his crew encounter, and like it's fantastical. It's so cool. And I know that stories like this are mirrored in other cultures throughout the world. Like, and it makes me wonder what is the origin of that? Like, how come all of our stories seem to kind of align ish? You know, we're like all sort of on the same plane, kind of. Like, maybe it's a little this way or that way, but they're all very similar. And it's like, how?
Well, when you think about it, there's only like a handful of plots, and there's just a a multitude of versions of those.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. Like, I feel like that might be a bit of a stretch. I don't remember who said that, Shakespeare maybe, or somebody of that like. But you know, it does make sense that, you know, a lot of these stories are very similar because they tell like about common struggles, or
Yeah.
you know, anything that any human is going to come across, and
Mm-hmm.
and they have, of course, their own cultural spin on it and stuff.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
you know, that doesn't rule out, you know, that there could have been like a global event that everybody experienced in their own way.
Mm-hmm. I
Whether it's a flood or aliens or whatever.
exactly, or a crash landing of from some extraterrestrial explorers.
Mm-hmm.
It like this. God, this collection of stories. I read this. This is another one like Anansi that I read anytime I feel a little bit down. Um, it's not for the faint of heart. Like there's certainly it's not like necessarily a happy-go-lucky thing, but it's an adventure. Like going well, and as you can see on the cover, there's the edge of the world here, and
Oh,
their
nice.
ship is falling off of it. So
see, the Earth is flat.
Well, maybe in this world, I suppose, in this universe. But that's the thing, is like, go explore, go out there, try new things, you know, get out of your comfort zone and experience stuff that you haven't experienced before. That's what that story, that book taught me. Oh, shit. Well, that's mic drop, I guess.
Yeah.
Damn.
Wow. Well, we are on to the final book that we both know. This is one that isn't necessarily from our childhood, but if you divided our lives in half, it was in the first half of both of our lives. So
yes,
young enough, let's say.
Yeah.
And you're the one that introduced me to this, so it was kind of like the first book that we really bonded over, you might say.
Yeah.
And we have an episode, well, a few episodes for this, but the Manna Machine.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Out of print, very expensive, hard to find, but extremely interesting.
Yes.
The premise is that there were these, let's say, like omitted texts from early Jewish scripture that were baffling to some, and so that's why they left it out. But when you decipher it and think, you know, hailing back to Sherlock Holmes with more than one angle of thinking here, it sounded a lot like schematics and maintenance instructions for a nuclear device that provided food to the Israelites.
Food.
Where the hell did they get that?
Yeah, food and more. Like, it's an operations manual, essentially. This is the Zohar translated. That like, and like the two writers of that book.
In the compendium book, the Kabbalah.
Yep, I do have that one. I don't have the other one. It's really expensive.
Yeah,
but it's like, when you read that stuff, there's no other conclusion you can come to other than like, well, this is some kind of advanced technology. Of course it is. And the interesting thing about this is it kind of connects cultures across the planet. All of the little nuggets that are part of people's religious practices and their history kind of point to something like that. Like, throughout the world, there's the well, I think they're hail from Africa, right? The Dogon, I think, or maybe I don't know, but they know, like, they have known about the star Sirius and the fact that it has a companion star. Like, that was something that was only very recently discovered. Yet these tribal peoples from like the middle of nowhere are like, oh yeah, there's another star orbiting around that star. Like,
Wow.
what? How do they know
That,
that?
yeah, that's literally impossible.
It is
without
yeah.
technology.
Yeah,
Like or an eyewitness.
yeah. Well, and that's the thing. It's like, maybe, perhaps, we do have a common ancestry, and it's among the stars.
Yeah.
Which this, I think, is so important because it binds us all together. It's like, you know what? We're not that different. We might speak differently or look a little different or whatever, or have different cultural practices, but you know what? We came from the same place.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Well, and thinking along these lines, like, this might seem like the antithesis of Sherlock Holmes, but it's just as important to keep an open mind about things that may seem fantastical, but you got to remind yourself about all the things we take for granted now that seemed fantastical in the past.
Yeah.
And with, looking through the lens of right now, it's easy to judge things as we always have. Like, we can't explain that, so it must be gobbledygook, or like it's a fairy tale shit, but maybe not,
Well,
and
maybe that's
the Manna Machine is a good example of that. It's like these two guys like kind of discovered
two engineers, by the way.
Yeah, George Sassoon, Rodney Dale. I think only one of these blokes is still alive, but they even recreated like a prototype of it, I believe.
Yeah, which
something that we would like to do.
We have that in the works. Hopefully, going to be expensive.
Mm-hmm.
If we want to make an actual functioning one.
Yeah.
But
I would definitely recommend people check out. I think we even have a playlist for the Manna Machine.
Yeah.
We've got some more detailed discussions on this if you're interested. But like that opened a door to just a new way of seeing the world, and like, the History Channel is always like the ancient aliens and stuff, and it seemed a little bit hokey and all that, but like this lends real credibility to it. I'm surprised they don't talk about it.
I am surprised too. Well, that was time, but well, and maybe just as kind of a final thought, I suppose it's like, when people talk about aliens and stuff like that, supernatural things, it's like, well, they're like, well, there has to be a rational explanation, a plausible thing, like a grounded in scientific reality kind of thing. That's like, well, you know what? Maybe the most plausible explanation for a lot of these things is aliens. Right. Like, maybe that might actually be, maybe we're the aliens, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's not that crazy.
Or it's like I said a week or two ago, I think, what if like all these grand religious events that happened a couple thousand years ago and then just never happened again were just because like it was just somebody passing by, like,
yeah,
like when you have those distances to travel and there's like infinite realms to explore, why would you come back?
Yeah, or maybe we're the product of one probe ship that was sent to check out Earth, and we got, whoever came before got stuck there, and they're like, well, I mean, I guess these Neanderthals are kind of hot.
Well, if you think about like previous Lightning Strikes Twice, you brought up physical media for memories, like pictures and so on.
Yeah.
If that's lost, if all your history books burn, you can quite easily forget a lot of what happened.
For sure. And as we probably have discussed in the Manna Machine episodes, that like a lot of the protocol, the religious protocol and procedures and the things that people do might have been like an attempt to keep from forgetting how to do things, or our place in where we came from and stuff. It's like, people, the Kabbalah decoded and stuff, or the Kabbalah in general, the Zohar, people think of it as like a religious thing, but it's like, well, what if it's an attempt to not forget how to keep this stuff, that the last remnants of our past civilization alive?
I mean that's not impossible. Like even without aliens, it could be that somehow we came up with this shit on our own, right?
But either way, this is the point. It's like, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Like, why not operate as if that's the case? Because, well, that brings everybody together. Like, we're not so different after all. Like, you look at like the stories across the planet, no matter where you go, but major cultures and stuff, they share very, very similar tales of similar things. Like, that can't be a coincidence, right? There's no way. I mean, this is turning into a whole episode after this, but yeah. Well, and actually, this ties everything nicely together with string. That like that everything is connected. The like, human civilization doesn't exist in a vacuum. It isn't like, oh well, these people on this artificially drawn border are this way, and these people over here are that way, and whatnot. It's like, actually, none of that matters. Maybe we all just came from space. Could that be a possibility?
Yeah. I mean, wouldn't that be something like that? I feel like that would be like most people here on Earth would be like the Klingons and the Cardassians or whatever in that episode of Star Trek where they were like, no, we couldn't be related to each other.
Oh, yeah.
That's not possible.
Oh, it's a tearjerker of an episode. Oh my God. From TNG, yeah.
Yeah.
But maybe we do have a common ancestry that is otherworldly.
Maybe that's the genesis of all these great children's stories that we were all raised on.
They could be stories that didn't originate on planet Earth, but were carried here from somewhere very far away a long time ago.
Trippy.
I know, man. Oh, Jesus. Well, I think we're going to do this again.
You had some honorable mentions, didn't you?
No, I think I've covered everything that I had out here.
Okay, well, I just wanted to make a quick honorable mention. This isn't necessarily just one book, but also a series. The Little Golden Books.
Yes.
With the foil along the
Hell
side.
yeah. Oh my God. Those books are fantastic.
Yeah.
Oh my God. I have a few. They're amazing. And yeah, I read a bunch of those and was read two from those as a kid.
Yeah.
Totally.
And I think a lot of the times they were like very common stories like Frosty the Snowman that people are very familiar with, but that just like the brand was almost more cool than whatever story it was. Like,
Yeah.
just like shiny edge to it.
Well, and that's one of the things too. It's like when you picked up a little golden book, you knew it was going to be a good story. Because they didn't just put out a bunch of crap. Like, they took their time crafting like the best of things, for the most part.
No, it's gonna be a bang. That's real gold.